one of our maintenance technicians was in the trailer kind of holding the refrigerators up as we were, driving through the property. I didn't realize what it was like to turn when you were turning a trailer. And so as I made one of my turns, the maintenance tech and the refrigerators just fell out of the
Whether you're developing a new student housing community or acquiring an existing one, fast and reliable internet isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. But when it comes to serving college students, standard telco providers often fall short on both performance and support. Don't risk a frustrating experience for you and your residents. Choose Campus Technologies, a provider with nearly 25 years of expertise in delivering top-tier internet infrastructure and exceptional customer service for student housing nationwide. Beyond high-speed wired and wireless internet, Campus Technologies also offers managed IT services to keep your property management team running smoothly at their properties. Even if you're not currently in the market for a provider, you need to know the best practices for upgrading your property's internet infrastructure. Download their latest white paper today. You can find the link in the show notes or visit campustechnologies.com. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Student Housing Insight Podcast, where we are putting you in touch with the people who bring student housing to life. I'm your host, Wesley Dees, and joining me as co-host again today is John Barr with Dinerstein Companies. John, how are you doing?
Doing good. Sun is shining, so I can't complain.
Well, hey, for those that did not catch our last episode with John, we are doing a series based on several interviews that he had while he was at Interface that he recorded for us with some fantastic perspective. If you missed that episode, make sure you go back and listen to it. We do a complete setup to what's behind it, what was the influence behind this. And it's something that he's creating with one of our Student Housing Insight ambassadors, Courtney Daisy. And incredible idea that you guys had. And although this wasn't necessarily the original idea, it has provided some fantastic content. And we said, hey, let's do this, but let's don't do the man in the street kind of structure. Let's just take these videos and kind of keep them in the original interview format that you had. And I love it. And today's guest that you're interviewing, I love as well. She has been such of a big impact to this industry. She works with you at Dinerstein. You call her a boss. She probably says she's your colleague, but
listen, on paper, she is my boss, but she's also a dear friend of mine. So Aryne Bailey, the name goes without saying. Everyone knows her throughout the industry. She's short, but she packs a lot of punch. So you've probably caught her on both ends of being this chipper girl or coming down on you if you messed up, which I have done multiple times under her. So
she's the perfect person to represent Dinerstein within this industry as she does. And she also serves on the leadership committee for Shop Talk. For those that don't know anything about Shop Talk, that's our monthly webinar. Yes, we have a leadership committee for it because it's not something Student Housing Insight is obviously the host of it. It was a weekly call that got started during COVID that just grew and grew and grew. And 2022, they were kind of tired of having the student housing COVID response Zoom call. And a couple folks reached out to me and said, hey, Wes, is this something you could help us with? And I said, yeah, let's do a proper webinar and let's call it Shop Talk, because I'm not calling it the COVID response call. And so, one of the things we set up was, hey, we want to have a leadership committee that's really kind of talking about the things that we're discussing. So if you're not familiar with Shop Talk, go check that out at shoptalk.info. We do a policy and legislative update at the beginning with NMHC. We have a review of kind of what's happened the previous 4 to maybe 6 weeks from a Preleasing standpoint with College House on a regional and a national basis. We don't really get into market specific stuff, but that is always something that at this time of the year, I feel like everybody's got their eye on. You and I are recording this at the beginning of the month in June, John, how are things going with you from a pre-leasing standpoint?
We're not seeing the huge rental increases that we've seen post the pandemic. We saw that really big in 2020, 21, 22, and so forth. I think this year we've hit a cap. And so we're still seeing anywhere from 3 to 8%. But I think it's been really hard to get the 10, 12% that we initially started off with our rate strategies. I almost want to say it's like we had this big pop and then we're just settling back to what normality was historically for student housing. Our pre-lease numbers are still good across the board. Some areas we're playing catch up, and that's just due to like in Ann Arbor, Michigan is a really good example of that. We're seeing a lot of new developments come in. And so our assets that were really flashy 5 years ago aren't looking as flashy anymore because of the new developments coming around there. So we're just having to restructure, and owning assets longer is that once you hit that 5 year mark, you become old. And so it happens so fast. And you're like, man, I thought I was still a new development, and the market will tell you you're not. And so other than that, I think that's really, it's kind of funny. I feel like we're reacclimating to what student housing has been historically. But if you join during student housing during 2020 to now, you're like, where's our 10% increases? Where's our 12%? Why are now we giving concessions in a California market? And it's like, if you look back 5 years previously, this is actually normality for what this market now produces.
No, I think you're exactly right on that. I think I'd said kind of at the beginning of the year, like I think we're going to see kind of a move back to 2019.
Yes.
You guys play mostly in the Power 4, Power 5 markets. I know there's some properties that you've got that would be considered tier 2, but and I will say that I think there's a lot of people that would hear that and say, not me, man, our enrollment's in decline and don't think we'll ever, we're underwriting this at 85% now. And that's kind of a reality for a lot of tier 2 schools from what I'm hearing, because there's, the tier 1, like demographics, will end up changing. We'll end up seeing Generation Z decline, in the next couple of years. Generation Alpha is, their numbers are in decline as well. We've now got this whole thing with international students that this podcast is probably not going to come out for another 2 weeks. So who knows what's going to happen, with international students over the next 2 weeks based on what's just happened in this past week. And so, I think there's a lot of things we're going to be seeing there, once we get into August and September of, hey, here's where we did miss it. We're missing it on these schools that have declining enrollment, and we're going to have to pivot. And I think we're going to also see that international students, if you're in a market with a lot of international students, it may not be this year because most of those international students end up living on campus for the first year.
Yeah.
So it may be next year that, and I don't want to say we won't see them in the market, because what's going to happen if, let's just say the numbers stay the same and you've got, let's say there's 1,000 incoming international students to a particular market or to a particular university that are supposed to come this year. Let's say 800 of them don't make it this year. What are they going to do? They're going to have a gap year? Or are they going to go somewhere else? If they go somewhere else, let's just pretend for a second they don't go anywhere else to take a gap year and they come back the next year, and enrollment is, they bring 1,800 students in, the next year, 1,800 international students. Is the university going to be able to house all 1,800 of those first time international, new international students? I don't think they will. So I don't know. There's a lot of variables there for sure.
What I've seen, we've already seen this before. I'm going back to the pandemic. We saw this in Davis, California, I think is a prime example of seeing a market, one, get oversaturated with too many on-campus beds coming, but then see the international populace decline. It's all cyclical. Like you'll see enrollment will flip. They're like, I think universities, to their credit, are very smart institutions. And like, if you lose it one place, you gain it another. And so you'll see enrollment flip around. And even for these areas that like Power 5 schools that were overdeveloping, whether from it be from operator standpoint or on campus, I mean, look at, I think Oxford is like one of the ones I go back to now. It's like no one would touch that like 2017. And now look at, it's like the number one market in America right now. There's not enough beds for kids. I happened at A&M in 2018 when we developed there too. They built this huge deal there, and there was too many beds in the market. And sure enough, things always happen cyclical. So for any operator out there scrambling around, I always say, like, everything's cyclical. It happens, and it comes in waves, and just hold tight. And sometimes you got to tighten up the purse to make the deal work for a little bit longer than expected. But we've had the College Station. I go back to College Station. Like, we just sold a deal there this past year, Aspire. And if you would have asked me 6 years ago if that was going to happen, I would have said never. There's no chance. This market's oversaturated. And sure enough, now we're building a phase 2 there with up campus there. So it's everything's cyclical. It happens. The enrollment will come. You just kind of have to sit on it and wait. At least for Power 5 schools specifically.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, let's get to your interview with Aryne. Any kind of takeaways that you've got you kind of want to alert everybody to?
Yeah, I think with my first interview, I was very strategic, and I was like, I really wanted to get someone that was from the vendor side. My whole purpose of this kind of series was I wanted different perspectives of different leaders on the podcast. And so through this one specifically, Aryne is an executive vice president at the Dinerstein Companies. She oversees our student portfolio, but on top of that, she oversees our management company. And so I think getting her insights on what she's seeing was very valuable from an operations standpoint, specifically for those of new regionals in the area, new roving marketing directors, new managers. I think that her perspective was very grounded in that aspect. And I think she gives some really good insights onto what she's seeing. And then again, I go back to, I think I queued it up on our last one, but I think she has some really good stuff on what we're doing at Dinerstein in regards to AI and centralization, which again wasn't necessarily what AI initially was intended to be, or maybe the rumors or the whispers that kind of got to the on-site teams of like, now my job's gone, and what am I going to do? And so I think she has some really good perspective on that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. For our audience, I would say, really pay attention to Aryne, not only what she says in this interview. I mean, she's been on the podcast before. She was on our Future of Student Housing panel interview that I did at Interface 2 or 3 years ago now. And we had a conversation about AI and a lot of other things that were happening. We talk a lot of things on that particular podcast, on that particular episode, that we don't normally get into. And one was just kind of politics and how they're impacting things, at a state level, with these different university systems. And she had some great perspective, not only from her experience, but also as her thoughts as a mother, who has kids that she hopes will eventually go to college. But that's what's kind of great about you guys at Dinerstein is, you guys are still top 25, right? Like maybe number 25.
Yep.
And so you guys have that kind of, national footprint, but it's especially on the student housing side, because I'm just not familiar with what all is on the other side, on the conventional side, but you're still able to be pretty intimate with that portfolio and, know all the things that are happening from an op standpoint and can really have some big impact on little changes you guys do from an operations side. That if you're a regional manager that works for a larger company, I think paying attention to the things that you and Aryne are doing and implementing, I think those folks really need to pay attention to it, because I feel like you guys are able to, see the results and have a perspective on the results that folks in larger companies may not be able to have. So yeah, here's that interview with Aryne Bailey.
Hey everyone, welcome to Student Housing Insights Tough Talks. I'm your host today, John Barr, still at Interface. Today I'm with one of my best friends, colleague, special guest, Aryne Bailey. Aryne, how's it going today?
It's good. It's good. You convinced me to do this. Still on the fence.
Well, listen, I'm going to make this easy. These are all fun conversations. We're going to have a good time. So, Aryne, what is it that you do in this industry right now?
like John said, I'm Aryne Bailey. I'm the Executive Vice President for Student Housing at the Dinerstein Companies.
Okay, awesome. And so what does, tell me what that means. I'm
Still figuring it out.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'm figuring out my job too.
Every day.
Yep.
I think every day is completely different.
But what is that what do you oversee, drive for TDC?
Hopefully I can say what I do eloquently enough to actually understand. So I oversee our entire student platform. So the Dinerstein Companies is a developer, management company, a construction company. I oversee the student operations and the student company. So we've got new developments, we have existing assets, we have acquisitions. So I really am involved in everything from the top down when it comes to anything related to students.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
From the pre-development all the way through disposition. So I'm involved in, making decisions on what platforms we're going to use,
Okay.
what vendors we're going to work with, the policies and procedures that our sites are going to hopefully live by on a day-to-day basis. Hopefully. And really just making sure that we're protected from any kind of exposure that's out there within the industry, which there's, lots of things going on right now
100%.
within our industry. And, looking at what are the new trends, making sure that we're staying up to date where we need to, making sure that we're pivoting as needed. So really, every single day of my job is completely different. It's dealing with working with our partners, working with our owners, and, just all different kinds of things.
So best way to describe your job,
Catch-all.
if any, is a catch-all, and you do all the things that no one else wants to do.
All the things nobody wants to do.
That's fair.
All the things that are probably behind the scenes that you don't realize. There's so much that goes into them.
Sure.
Those are probably the least sexy things. Those are the things
Yeah,
that I'm working
fair.
on and the things I'm doing.
Those are the things I stay away from.
Those are the things you do stay
And
away
I'm
from.
great at staying away. Y'all.
Very, very good.
This is a part of this. Well, the reason why I'm doing this is I want to get what's your spicy industry take right now on anything that's going on out there.
So something I think that is different maybe than what others think is
Correct.
what you define
Yes.
as spicy
Yeah,
take.
yeah. I want hot takes coming
Hot
right
takes.
off the press.
Okay. I think it's funny, especially talking about this with you, because you're in a role now that it's very AI driven,
Sure.
centralization,
Mm-hmm.
how can we do those things? I think a lot of people and a lot of companies are moving in that direction, which we obviously
Sure.
are. We're incorporating lots of different AI into
Mm-hmm.
our infrastructure. I think that you will see probably sooner rather than later that AI and centralization maybe almost takes a back seat to having people coming back into the fold.
That's
and
fair.
that we're not just going to move to robots running the property.
Yeah.
I don't think that is the direction ultimately that we're moving. I think
Agreed.
we're going to see a continued, and I think we do this a lot at Dinerstein, where we have people balancing out the AI
Yes.
and the centralization aspects that we've incorporated into our
Correct.
day-to-day. And
Correct.
I think we're going to see more of that,
Yep.
less people just moving towards centralizing every single office and every operation and AI taking over all of the day-to-day responsibilities. I really think that there's such an important aspect that our people and our teams bring to the table,
Sure.
and that we as an industry will continue to use AI,
Yep.
but that will be there to support our
Correct.
teams
Yep.
and let them get to do the things that are most important, which is running our properties and building retention with our residents and getting new residents in. I think it's more so going to be a support than it is
Yes.
going to be a replacement.
No, I love that you said that, because as someone that's doing this currently, the more I find out is the more how imperative people are
Yes.
in comparison just to the technology. It has to be a symbiotic relationship of introducing technology with the human element and human in the loop. I think that is always going to be my mindset, is that where's the human in the loop in this situation? Automate what can to expedite other processes that really give, to your point, giving the teams time back in their day to be as excellent as possible at what they do.
100%.
Okay, but I think you're the perfect person. I've been waiting to ask you this one. In your opinion, what's harder, a acquisition or a new development?
Acquisition.
Okay, why? Give me all the tea.
I mean, here's the thing. They're both difficult.
Agreed.
And I think I can make an argument either way as to why one is harder than another.
Yep.
I think when it comes to a new development, though, on a new development, in every aspect, you're starting fresh.
Sure.
With a property, with residents, with online reputation.
Yeah.
There's every element of it is just, it's fresh. There's nothing existing. There's no preconceived notion about that property.
Sure.
And you and your team have the opportunity to build whatever you want with that new development. So I think from that standpoint, a new development is probably easier. But again, there are tons of challenges that come with a new development. And I can go through that for hours. Acquisition would be my answer because, and I just, there's a lot. There's a lot with an acquisition.
Yeah.
There's a business plan. It's immediate. You're not, ramping up. Most of the time you are finding out about an acquisition pretty quickly to when it's actually coming and
maybe
when it's
like
actually maybe like a week before. Hey, we're buying this property. Get out there, get your team.
That's fair.
And so I think it's figuring that out on the fly a lot of the times is tough. And like I said, I mean, anytime there's an acquisition and new development too, but there's a strategy associated with that property. And sometimes it's difficult.
Sure.
Most of the times it's difficult. And again, you're dealing with a property or you're working with a property that is existing. It has its own residents. It has its own issues. It has its own image and reputation that you're probably trying to overcome or fix or help. There's so many different aspects on a new acquisition or on an acquisition that I think for me, I think it makes it more challenging.
I think you're wrapping what you set up in. I think it's there's a lot of unknowns and because of the unknowns, it can be minimal to very drastic. You don't know what's coming out of that closet until you start opening it up and pulling things out.
Right.
So I think that's completely fair. And I loved your answer there.
I think any acquisition has skeletons that you're going to find one way or another.
Oh, for sure. I found my fair share. All right. So one of my favorite things of coming to these conferences is meeting with everyone in the industry. And the one thing that we always do is we sit around a table and we just tell each other the best turn stories. So for our audience, knowing that a lot of them are on site right now, we need to make you relatable at this point.
Okay.
Give us your best turn story.
The one that comes to mind for me, so my first property that I was a property manager of was in Tallahassee, go Knowles. This was a long time ago. And it was a 3-story garden style property, so 3-story walk up. And it was middle of turn, obviously.
Sure.
We were having to get appliances moved around the property. It was a cash trap property. We weren't ordering a lot of new stuff. Occupancy wasn't very high. Sure. So we were having to kind of rob Peter to pay Paul. So,
as you always do.
As you always do, move, this refrigerator from the front of the property to the back of the property, all that kind of stuff. So for some reason, I was in charge of driving the trailer, which never should have happened. I'd never driven a trailer before.
She's not a good driver.
Not a good driver. Not a good driver in general, let alone of a, trailer, of an open trailer that has all of these appliances.
Yeah, instant bad idea.
And it was refrigerator day.
Sure.
Like it wasn't even the low ones. It was, the high refrigerators. And so I am driving the trailer. There's one of our maintenance technicians was in the trailer kind of holding the refrigerators up as we were, driving through the property. I didn't realize what it was like to turn when you were turning a trailer. And so as I made one of my turns, the maintenance tech and the refrigerators just fell out of the trailer.
That's great.
And I didn't realize it until I kind of whipped around. I'm like, oh my gosh, why are they out of the trailer? And then it clicked I took a terrible turn and here we are. So from then, I've never driven a trailer, and I probably won't ever again.
And let the record show, you were the one that says you work on, making sure employees follow the employee handbooks and follow the procedures. But that was your story.
This was well before that time for me, very, very long ago.
So we can all get to a point where
everybody can grow
and rise above it.
Yes, everybody can. Yeah.
All right. Well, last question I have for you. I think this is a big one, and one of my favorite questions on the list is, obviously, you have great experience in the industry. You've been in it for so long. Everyone has our own different journeys through this industry. So, if you could give yourself advice when, you first had started, or give honestly our viewers some advice as if I'm a CA on site and I'm trying to navigate what I want to do in this industry, because I can go vendor, I can go operations, leasing, there's so many things. What would you give advice on?
To me, it's an easy one, and I think about it even more so being here at Interface right now and just seeing so many people that I've known over the years.
Sure.
It's really just never to burn a bridge.
Yes.
I've been in this industry now for over 15 years, and Dinerstein is not the first company that I've worked for.
Sure.
And I just think just being here, and again, it's prevalent because I'm here right now, but you're seeing people constantly, especially at higher levels. But you're seeing people constantly that you may work with now, or you've worked with in the past, you've done business with before. It's just so important to never burn a bridge. I think there's graceful ways to handle every situation, but there's really just to always, I would like to think that I never have before.
Sure.
But really just to always keep that in mind. You're always, how many times this week have we seen people that
just walking into this room?
Exactly. Just walking into this room oh, hey, I used to work with that person, or hey, that was a vendor that I used to work with, or whatever the case may be. And it's nice to know that you haven't. And it's just easy, such an easy thing to do. There's always a graceful way to handle anything. And so to me, it's such an easy thing to do, and it goes such a long way. And your reputation becomes obviously who you are. And so if people know that about you, it's impactful.
I love that. I think one thing I didn't realize as I was kind of growing up in the industry is that it's so small, and you don't realize it. So small. But on top of that, but then again, there's we have thousands of properties across the nation with different operators and so forth, and it's at some point we still all cross paths. And it's because of that. And but it also makes it so fun is that you get to create these relationships, and it's great seeing people that you previously worked with at these conferences and having and reliving some of those turn stories with one another. So I love that. Well, thank you, Aryne, for your time. It was amazing. Kisses. So yes, thank y'all all for tuning in for this mini episode, and more to come.
Well, again, I appreciate Aryne taking the time out and giving our audience her perspective. There's always so many little gold nuggets that she provides, and she did not disappoint once again.
Yeah, you got to vote on who did it better, JT or Aryne, because we got to put wife against husband on this one.
Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Bailey. I feel like we need to get T-shirts made up for their fan club,
Team J or Team Aryne, Team JT.
Yeah. I know which side I'm picking on that.
I know too. If you're, again, I said it last one, but be smart about it. Help a man out, and just vote Aryne. Just be safe.
No, they're both great. Appreciate not only the time that they give to Student Housing Insight, but also to the industry in general. Coming up on the next episode within this series, you're going to be talking to Nick Hill at Up Campus. Again, someone that's no stranger to the podcast. We've had him. I don't know that we've had him on the podcast. Maybe we were talking about some international stuff. We've definitely had him on Shop Talk before. And, he's just got such of a interesting perspective on it. One, a lot of, there's a lot of us that say we came up within this industry. And I can't remember. I don't think because he wasn't, while he was in college, he wasn't working for student housing, was he? I don't think so.
That I don't know. My time with Nick goes back to CA Ventures when they had the student portfolio. And then I worked under him at one point, and then he went overseas, and then I didn't get to see him again. So he got to go overseas and just live the dream. That's everyone's student dream. It's oh, how can I go overseas and do this internationally? Nick lived it, and on the next one you'll see he kind of talks a little bit about it, which is really cool.
Yeah, and that's the perspective I really appreciate, from him. I know a lot of the folks that worked for him when he was at CA Ventures. A lot of those folks did start in student housing while they were in college, and they kind of got this, you only know what you know. And I remember it was Jordan Vardabedian that actually mentioned this to me, and Nick was not even in earshot. So it wasn't like she was, she was just trying to sing his praises. She was literally singing his praises of just how much of a different perspective he brought to everything, and allowed her to think outside of the box on things. And she, she didn't have that before. It was, very much a stringent, here's how we do things. And she just, tried to replicate those things. And Nick allowed her to, and encouraged her to go, beyond that. And I've heard that from other folks that have worked with Nick. So huge, impact on this industry that he's made. He did go overseas and kind of kick off everything with CA Ventures entree into Europe. And that is the perspective he brings from that is just, there's not a lot of folks out there that can give that perspective. So make sure you tune in for that. A couple of other announcements on things that are coming up. Again, we've got this relationship with BIZNOW that we have started on helping promote some of their student housing events that they have coming up. July 30th, if you're in the Atlanta area, or if you have properties or relationships that you're either wanting to start or you're wanting to continue and network with, definitely be there July 30th if you're not completely exposed to all the things with Turn at that time. Don't get me wrong, I've told them July 30th is not a good date, but it was the date that they were left with. And so, there's a lot of student housing companies that are based in Atlanta. So I think there will be a pretty big executive presence from those folks and those companies there. So if you want more information on it, you can go to studenthousinginsight.com and just go to our events page, and you'll see it there on our calendar. There's also a discount for anybody that registers that way. So make sure you pay attention to the discount code before you register. Keep a little bit of cash in your pocket. Their events are not that expensive. They're a half a day. They're typically, $100, $135. So not a big investment you have to make from that standpoint, but really great networking. And I think that's it. I do want to make mention to everybody that we do have our annual Topgolf Mixer that is coming up we've done that at the NMHC Student Housing Conference the past couple of years. That conference is in October. It's in Scottsdale this year. And there just happens to be a Topgolf that's just a couple miles away from the resort. So we are doing that this year. It is also going to be a fundraiser event. So we're wanting to make sure that everybody is aware of it and getting out to it to really support a great organization that the industry has bonded with. That's the How Are You Foundation out of Austin, Texas. They really help build resources and relationships around improving the mental wellness for college students. They are the reason that the industry came together and built and I know I'm probably going to screw this name up, but the College Student Mental Wellness Advocacy Coalition, or just better known as the coalition within those of us that are in the industry. And so we've got a big survey and a couple other resources that we want to get out this year. And speaking with the board, we said, this year we want to make sure, and probably going forward, we want to make sure that the Topgolf Mixer is something that we use to help benefit them. So if you want more information, you can go to our website to the events page and see that information there as well. We're also collecting sponsors for that now. So if you're a vendor or a service provider that wants to check that out, go to studenthousinginsight.com and check out the events page for that. John, any other final thoughts?
No, it's always a pleasure. Definitely tune into the next episode. I'm really excited to show y'all Nick's perspective. And thanks again for having me.
Great. We'll see you on the next one.